Hey guys, thanks for watching. I'm illustrator John McCoy. And I'm drawing a skull today. Okay, let's just jump in here, huh? And do a 3/4 angle. Sorry you can't see the actual skull as I draw it. I'm using General's compressed charcoal. Fairly cheap sketchbook here. And then we'll just jump in. Get the overall shape of the skull in there, blocking in the cranial mass here. And then this, it's establishing lines of symmetry, the front of the face plane and the bottom of the jaw line. And now you can see we've got a rough estimate of the skull shape. Now we can establish the main features, such as the nasal cavity here and the ocular cavities. So sometimes you can't talk and draw at the same time. It's part of the process. All right, so I got to be astute when I'm doing this. I got to stay in the zone. Stay in the zone. A lot of this width is coming from the 3/4 view. I've always thought it was interesting, the cheekbone is kind of like glasses in my opinion, the shape that I'm seeing here. And you can never underestimate how round that cage for the teeth is. It's really pretty profoundly round. And there's these little knobs back here. Don't have the proper anatomical name for them, but we've got a rough estimate for the skull shape here. And now we're gonna establish some tone here. Just across the whole page. And we can use a subtractive method with a kneaded eraser. As long as I preserve my sketch lines and I can still see them vaguely, it's okay. Sometimes vague is good. Now I'm getting some top light on the skull, so chisel in there and just kind of extract the forms. So we can redefine the edge, we start to redefine some of the forms we saw previously with the assistance of the sketch. Sketch is there to assist the future efforts to described form. So we've got the top of the cranial mass there, and then going to define the brow line here. And it's very important to remember where the midline of the skull is here. It's also good to get that contour in there. That's a method that is very important for understanding the overall shape. So we go ahead and see what I can get away with here. So I got the overall shape happening, and then there's the forehead, and you got that little nodule here, which is an important descriptor. Soon I'm going to move into the ocular cavities and get that overall shape going. Get that shape. And then we can pick up on this the temple area and the main shadow that happens there. I'm holding it like this sideways because it affords a looseness of the wrist, and it's helpful. So we got this the cheekbone, and then we got the indentation here that is right above the mouth. And the mouth, again, it protrudes quite a bit. It's rather surprising. Most people were expecting that to be flatter, but the jaw is very delicate. And then I gotta make sure I get those overall proportions right. We're talking top of head to forehead or to brow line is about the same as brow line to base of the nasal cavity here. So get that shape in there. And then underneath that, you have the bottom of the nasal cavity to the bottom of the chin on the jaw. And that's about the same. So we got these proportions are roughly the same. They do vary with different people, but this is a pretty standard little skull I got from Amazon. So I'm gonna go ahead and block in the shadows in the ocular cavities here. And that's all that's really required, is that I just get the overall, the rough shape of it in there. You know, finding your way through a drawing. That's what drawing is. You find your way, you place marks, you see where you need to come and change. You need to change things and continue to refine a drawing, I think. So, cannot underestimate how large the cranium is, and the face is kind of delicate attached to it. So that's another one of those things. I'm always looking like, where am I exaggerating things? Where am I exaggerating proportions? Because that's where you're going to run into issues with describing a form. Human beings have large heads, and that's important. Really, the jaw ratio to the cranium ratio is a lot of what describes the perspective, which way the head is facing. You get this nice forwards to backwards perspective at a 3/4 angle, and you've got these lines going this way, and you've got the lines going this way. So you got two vanishing points predominantly, and it's good to be aware of those as the drawing progresses. Get that little. In my anatomical terms, as far as specificity, are not there. You know the overall shapes, and I can describe them, but brush up on my really detailed words. So shaping up, and the cheekbones also protrude quite a bit. That's something that is another one of those exaggerated, like I'm not sure if I'm doing them justice sometimes. This is not bad right now. I think it could stand to throw in another layer of tone over the entire thing. This is a way to quickly define form. I'm having trouble with this because of the shape of the sketchbook page, but I'm just gonna roll with it. I can, as long as I preserve the overall form underneath that I've described so far, I can do whatever I want with tone. And midtone, I could say it again and again, midtone is super helpful for describing form, because most values lay right in the midtones, and then they have darks and lights. The first strongest highlight I can define is the top of the cranium, and that is I'm getting backlighting from above. So I'm seeing that light spill over the form of the skull at the top. And that subtle gradation is more noticeable in the side because of that planar change that happens at the top of the forehead. So that's going to be more dramatic there at the top of the forehead. And then there's these highlights at the top. Down here, the form is going to protrude against a darker background, so I can go ahead and indicate that. I can also use the advantage of the tone laying down and the needed eraser to chisel out and describe some smaller forms like the teeth. And it's a quicker way of doing it. In any way is a fair way. So I'm going to define these highlights very subtly where the forms come forward. These delicate forms, these little rims and edges, and the subtle value information that tells you what is going on, describing form. There's quite a marked difference in between the values of this indentation, the temple, and the cheekbone. And then again, nearby to that is this ocular cavity. And that describes the form. You got the little space where the ocular nerve goes back, optical nerve, I mean. And then back here, you're just seeing the edge of that. So you're getting a marked shadow at the edge here in the leftmost ocular cavity. So there's some shadow description there, and then you have these little forms of the brow here. And these forms show up very much in the face. And the jaw here, once we can define the overall form of the cheekbone, we can come down and define the jaw, because there's going to be a dark line here. Right? 12 minutes. Maybe we'll go to 20. Just gonna get that, like I said, define the jawbone there. And, yeah, there's a indentation here at the bottom of the jaw, and you can feel this if you feel your own jaw. You can feel this little nobule, for lack of a better word. And then, again, paying attention to those perspective lines. But yeah. It's a rough sketch of a skull, but it's fairly descriptive. And then there's a bit of highlight there. I'm starting to wonder if a little bit of blending could help or assist in describing the form. So I'm going to get a little bit of tissue here and go ahead and see where I might want to introduce some smoothness to break up this texture, if it's possible. It should be. So we're getting some smooth tones, mid-tones that are in between the darks and lights. And I would not be inclined just to blend everything. But some areas, it can be descriptive to the form. In fact, I like the texture happening in the background. I think some of it, for the sake of not only description, but aesthetics as well. Because texture can describe depth, and it can also be aesthetic aesthetically pleasing. It can describe a difference. When there's a variety that occurs. But ultimately, texture describes form because it is another visual description of what's going on with a form. I think I was avoiding a little bit of work on the teeth because their placement can be tricky, but you know, to a degree that can't be avoided because it's part of the description. There's another dark position here and here, and that's the beauty of charcoals because it can go very dark. I guess that's also a challenge. It could be a challenge, but there's a full value range at your fingertips for sure with charcoal. And I'm noticing with the background that I'm looking at and the shadow here on the forehead that there's quite a contrast difference. So I'm going to accentuate that, and I should yield more realistic results that way. Of course, it does take a little bit of trust because there's a point where you're laying in those tones that it doesn't appear to be right. But if I get them in there and I look back, then I'm going to find that I have a more realistic description. And it also afford me an ability to reveal some bounce light that's happening in those shadows. This light here are all bounce light from the description. And again, I wish I could show you. Maybe in the future I'll be able to set it up so that I can show you what I'm looking at specifically, so you can see the piece coming together. But there's definitely a shadow contrast between the background and the form of the skull. Basically, as I grow as an artist, I learn techniques that help me to describe forms, but all the while, I'm using my intelligence to just do the best job I can to describe form. And a lot of times that's just faking it till you make it, basically. But it really isn't fake, because it's not the best description, because it's you just describe the way you need to describe to tell the story of what's happening, and that in and of itself, it's not fake. It's genuinely how artists not only work technically but also philosophically. An artist is describing what they see in life. That's what you're doing, I mean, generally. And then you're adding your vision and philosophy to it and sharing that with the world. That's what art is a lot about. So you work on a piece, and then you find at one point maybe you've captured something of authenticity, and then really you become interested in it as something independent that you've encountered and something you've discovered, which is kind of cool. Because let's face it, none of us either can be in control or wants to be in control completely, because we are always in a process of discovery and learning as human beings. And that's part and parcel to the daily drawing exercises that I'm doing, is I'm learning a lot. I'm learning about describing form, and I'm learning what's the best way to do that. And I'm also learning what is real in my process, what's not real. And really, drawing is learning. And it's also description, it's talking. Drawing is speaking visually. That's very cool, and I love doing it. But each time I do a drawing, I'm learning something new. And that's very important to me. Excuse me. You know, what defines when a drawing's done? Well, drawings are so much about learning. You could stop at any given point. And you will have learned something. And there's a strong highlight on the top. I want to make that brighter by any means possible. And that may be meaning that I will add another layer of tone over the whole piece and then extract the highlights again. But with the one thing I'm encountering is that the way I'm doing that with this charcoal is not. I'm wondering if if I use some vine charcoal, that may be more helpful, because the textures come on strong with these compressed charcoal sticks. Hope you guys have enjoyed watching this. I'm surprised if you actually watched the whole thing, because it's a lot. And I generally don't always produce videos in this way, because I know that many times people won't want to watch a whole thing. And sometimes they might. So there's both on my channel. It's just kind of a process. This is basically just like one of the most accurate things I could say about drawing is that it's a feedback process. You do something, you decide if you hated it or liked it, and you learn whether you want to repeat it or not, and keep going. Keep going, keep learning. And the more you draw, the more you learn. I'm not doing justice to this side of the head, how much shadow is actually hitting that, and that's, once I get that in there, it will describe the form better. Honestly, I like the blending. I think there's something to be shown through that, and beauty in that. Maybe I can always reintroduce texture, and to a degree I can just kind of endlessly change the surface, although the paper has memory. So at one point or another it's going to say, stop. You cannot add texture to me. You cannot continue to add texture to me and take away value and add value indefinitely, because the medium itself gets into the fibers of the paper permanently to a degree. Yeah, mostly the blending is an aesthetic choice, I would say. It is kind of descriptive, but it's also not. It's always a choice of, like, do I want to add certain descriptions in there? Like, this skull is sitting on my iPad and the iPad's filming. Do I want to show the edge of the iPad? Is that a mistake? I don't know. Well, it's only one way to find out. And again, it takes a lot of security in yourself, confidence in yourself, to realize that if I botch a drawing, it's just a drawing and I can do another drawing, and I've learned more than I ever would have, honestly. It's painful to say so, but I learn a lot from the failures in drawings. And generally, they're gentle failures. I mean, I don't think there's a time where something is like, oof, that just totally went south in every possible way. Really, it's just a mixture of failure and success. And that is where I learn. But it's gentle in that way because it's not a total failure. Blending is dangerous game to play. Never know when it's gonna really not look good, and a drawing can be totally overworked, and it's possible that this one's getting there. So I need to be careful. It's interesting. These lines are distracting. I have to kind of take them down a notch by some means or another. Okay, well, at this point I've encountered a few failures, ironically, right when I talked about failure. And I'm battling wanting to quit or start over or not put this out on the internet. Battling vulnerability, that sort of thing. That happens. But at this point, I had nothing to lose. If I'm not a fan of the drawing, then I can use that as a jumping point to be more courageous in the things I want to try with the drawing. So really, like I was wanting to add more shadow to describe the form. I was nervous it would take away from the aesthetic of the piece. And now I'm not as nervous, and I'm starting to like that result. So you can kind of like indefinitely bounce back and forth between failure and success and learning all the while. And I think that's awesome. I'm liking the changes that have happened since I admitted that the failures that I was encountering. Maybe too much blending. So I learned, and here I am, making the most of that. Describing form more. Now there is a shelf. There's bounce light coming from this direction because it's hitting the light of the table there, and so it's describing. And I have to be careful. It's describing the form of the teeth. I'm wondering if I can get in there and just indicate that there are teeth there without going hog wild or getting completely invested in describing teeth. Because I gotta say, the whole skull is a blast to draw except for the teeth because there's so much symmetry and they're such tiny forms. But, you know, who am I to avoid a challenge? A lot of this work can be done using the kneaded eraser. It can chisel out the forms, and I can always add value or subtract it. That's the beauty of this method. Charcoal's great for that. Well, graphite is as well. But I would say that one of the things I love about charcoal over graphite, aside from the fact that I necessarily don't really like how smudgy it can be in a disastrous way, but I do love the full value scale that charcoal affords, and it's very difficult to get that without getting the ugly shininess of graphite. And if any of you have worked with graphite before, but it's kind of it's like a love-hate relationship, if I'm honest. Charcoal, you can go straight to black without a shine on it. It's one of the most natural blacks in a value range I could achieve. I haven't done much to describe these processes on the, I think that's the medical term, processes on the back of the skull here, and how the shadow beneath the skull helps to describe those. Again, one of the main ways I need to grow as an artist, I see, is value range. I am a little timid with values, and I would like not to be, because values are the main descriptor of form. And so the more accurate my values are, the more I can realistically describe form. And that takes a lot of confidence to just jump in on the value scale. But you yield results quickly, positive results quickly when you demonstrate confidence in expressing values. You get more realistic form, and it pays off. And it's only a matter of time before you get a mastery over it. It's not too far away. You can trust the process. Okay. I'm always looking, well, at some point when I've had a dose of learning, I'm always wondering about the when I can deliver something and say it's done. Because at some point in a drawing, it is rather mentally engaging process. So it's kind of like you have eaten something and you're full and you want to be done. Like it was enough for a certain sitting, or you had something to do after it, and you just want it to have a certain amount of it. And I'm at that point. I'm looking for a way out. Honestly, I'm looking for to be done with this drawing, because I feel I've had ups and downs with it. I've learned from it, and I'm ready. I've got what I want, and I'm ready to get out. But maybe there's more I need to learn here. I don't know. It's a saturation point where you can only learn so much in one sitting. It's good to take breaks. And on that note, I think I'm going to confidently end this drawing with a signature. I'm going to be composing this one with Instagram in mind, with a square composition as the default Instagram composition. So I'm going to consider aesthetically where it might be kind of nice to sign it. So yeah, I've got 4 corners potentially are the most desirable places. Sometimes the bottom is better because the heaviness of a signature generally is darker than the background, so that it can be visible, and that has some visual weight to it. So I'm just gonna go for it. Once you're in, you're in. Go, go, go. This is kind of a new signature I've been working on. Just my first and last initial and the date. And then of course, I indicate what daily sketch number we are on. I have to look it up sometimes. Like now. I have to look it up now, let me see. So I just go to my Instagram page and I click the last one I did, and we're on 174. So I think I could do it here, I could do it there. I think I'm just gonna leave it here because this has weight enough to it and it sort of balances out. And and it's such a simple addition. I am really tempted to add some nice smudge somewhere. Maybe break the contour or something where it would be broken naturally. Like some of the texture happening there. So much of this, so much of drawing in general is an aesthetic decision. This line is strong. I'm gonna break it if I can, but very gently and with aesthetic consideration. We're at 35 minutes. Wow, it's a good sketch. I'm just gonna fade it there. That looks better. Okay. I think I can almost stop. Okay. Just a little softening of the textures there. Okay. Perfect. Okay. All right. Thank you guys for watching. If you have not yet, I would encourage you to subscribe to the channel. Again, most of my videos are time-lapse videos, but for this one I decided to do a full-length video, and I hope you enjoy the commentary and honest discussion of my artistic process for this piece. Here's the subject matter. God bless you guys. Have a wonderful day.